In Little Women by Louisa May Alcott, Jo March is depicted as a headstrong and creative woman. She has a desire to produce her blooming work at a time when the world was too blinded. She was ahead of her time, but was described as too rough and wild. As inspiration strikes, she pores over her work under dim candlelight and musses up her auburn hair with ink-stained fingers. Many nights has Jo March stayed awake in that small attic, the same attic that her and her sisters grew up in. Warm, honey-hued memories of theater rehearsals and visits from the Lawrence Boy. It seems Jo March has grown up in that attic. The love pouring off the pages of my writing. So many countless nights spent in the safety of night, blanketed by the cold, hovering over my writing. Victorian fountain pen and tight, ruminant handwriting. Faint glow of my pink lamp that my mother worked so hard to find to fit the theme of my room. My mom, the one who raised me. My piano, when I initially learned when I was 7, but ended up quitting. I had desperately missed music and clarinet, my other instrument, so I learned how to play again. When I was under the honeymoon impression, I had the desire to learn piano as well, learning my instrument while being surrounded by tokens of importance. I see a photo of my cousin and I after a day of playing outside in the bitter cold of the Pacific Northwest. We had spent all day in the forest. A dear friend of mine once introduced me to a certain word, apricity. It means the warmth of sun in winter. Because in my memory, I can't remember the bite of the cold. I can't remember the frigid temperatures, and I don't want to remember how sick I got because it was so cold. All I can remember is the warmth and laughter of my family and saudade. In essence, this room has seen it all and has been with me in my most formative years. I was looking through old boxes before the move. Boxes and boxes, one after another, of old photos my mom took with her Kodak camera. Honeymoon, college, weddings, it went on and on. Each photo I looked at was different from the last, even if it was from the same person's life. Every photo told a story, even if they were the same two photos taken only a second apart. Something shifted between them. The position of a cup, the tilt of a head, the hand to stifle a laugh, it would all change in a second, or however long it took to snap the other photo. The differences and similarities of all the photos remind me of the fig tree analogy of Sylvia Plath, and how we each have so many choices and possibilities of how we could live, yet we must only choose one path. As I looked through my mom's photos, I started to wonder what my life will look like the older I grow and the more I take. Will I too have a Kodak envelope mailed to me with pictures from weddings and a honeymoon? Will I someday have photos of myself smiling among groups of people and grow up even more to think, I remember these people? I imagine showing my current photos to my children someday and saying, this was my granddad, he was one of my favorite people, or this was when I went to Mexico the first time and met so many wonderful people. Something about it soothes me, and in the next house, all these same photos will remain with us. I look around this room and the lime green walls of the living room, the old books of the 1800s full of notes and newspaper articles, seething with life of the people before me. I see the old antique pieces in my room, each one meticulously picked out at antique festivals or inherited from someone who loves me. Most importantly, a woman must have money in a room of her own if she's to write fiction. Virginia Woolf. Feeling remains glued to whatever art form besides fiction, because in this room, this is where I have the most memory so far in my life of creating. Whether that's playing clarinet late at night, playing with my toys when I was a little kid, or even filming on my 2012 Disney Frozen camera.
There's a ping pong table, William's sitting in the hammock.
From one of the first cameras I ever filmed on, a cold winter in Idaho with plentiful snow, I had gotten it for Christmas, to now, the small starter camera that my brother left to me. I first saw him with his passion for film and kind of wanted to do something similar. I'm a storyteller through and through, and so I thought camera documentation was the way to go. The nature of all my belongings are all of similar connections to each other. They are all a part of me, and each and every object has a meaning and a story. Just like in a crowd of people, everyone has stories and a lifetime of memories. As one who is every mystic part, I feel prefigured in my heart. An extracted wonder from the poem Pre-Existence by Paul Hamilton Haynes. This poem describes me, my mind, and the connection between me and my room. While sauntering through the crowded street, some half-remembered face I meet, albeit upon no mortal shore, that face, methinks, has smiled before. set to an air whose golden bars must have heard in other stars. In sacred aisles I pause to share the blessing of a priestly prayer, when the whole scene which greets mine eyes in some strange mode I recognize, as one whose every mystic part I feel prefigured in my heart. At sunset as I calmly stand, a stranger on an alien strand, familiar as my childhood's home, seems the long stretch of wave and foam.